Hello and welcome to the Federal. In the early 1990s, Bharatiya Janata Party got a leg up in Indian politics with Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid agitation picking up momentum in Uttar Pradesh. Subsequently, the party saw a slow but steady growth. However, 3 decades later, the arrival of two leaders from Gujarat, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, completely changed the fortunes of the party. The stunning nature of BJP's growth in 2014, its repeat performance in 2019, and its continuing spread has left academics, political analysts, and journalists groping for answers till date. How does one understand the political appeal of the Hindutva, the role played by the secretive RSS or Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh? What constitutes Sangh Parivar and how its objectives and strategies are evolving over the years? While Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains the most popular face and leader of the Saffron Party, his Home Minister Amit Shah has been constantly strategizing and operationalizing its plans. The RSS leadership is more vocal compared to the past, but still remains largely in the background. The BJP rode to power in 2014 parliamentary elections and repeated defeat in 2019. They're projecting a muscular leadership and pushing a hardcore Hindutva agenda aided by its well-oiled election machinery. However, it has had a checkered record when it comes to state assembly elections. It had glorious win in some, a near miss in others, defeats in few, and dramatic return in others, thanks to the thanks to a bit of skullduggery, misuse of power, and convenient help from Congress rebels. Uttar Pradesh became the new laboratory for the party where it vanquished Mahagathbandhan or the combined might of the opposition through a well-crafted social engineering. In some ways, it has become a template for the party in subsequent state elections where it has been fine-tuning its strategies based on local conditions. Is it a winning recipe? How did BJP arrive at it? To discuss this and much more, we have with us today an eminent social scientist, Professor Badri Narayan, who has been crisscrossing Uttar Pradesh and doing several ground studies to understand evolving Hindutva phenomena. He has authored several books on the subject, but his latest one, Republic of Hindutva, How Sangh is Shaping Indian Democracy, has several new insights and learnings that could help us understand the political appeal of the Hindutva in Uttar Pradesh and beyond. Welcome, Professor Narayan.
Namaskar ji.
Namaskar. To begin with, why do we know so little about RSS? You have, in fact, said that the opposition is fighting with an image of the RSS which is not its reality. You have, in fact, castigated the so called RSS experts appearing in television shows and said that they do not understand the real power of the RSS. Can you elaborate and tell us what is its real power?
Srinivasan ji, is very good question. Although in my book I have explained in detail the real appearance of the RSS. What is real RSS? Actually, what happens that uh, uh, whenever we start thinking about RSS, we have some stereotypes in our mind, and that stereotypes evolves 30, 40 years back and is still continuing our perception. And that is continuing perception of not only academicians and journalists and also politicians, those who are fighting with the RSS or whatever in Hindutva. Actually, they don't understand the garbh of politics is the RSS. From where the real resources of the politics generates. Sources in two sense. The sources as a network connectivity, and also the sources of mobilization. Like I tell you one example. Uh, First of all, I'll tell you the connectivity between RSS and BJP. Then I'll say the what is real RSS in my view. So Suhal Dev, you must have heard, is an icon of Pasis and Rajbhar communities. Both are claiming for their Suhaldev as their hero, as a Dalit community. One is Dalit community, one is OBC community, and both are claiming for their Suhaldev as a teacher. Recently, since few years, BJP has started picking up that symbol and has started making a statue, doing various things around. And Amit Shah inaugurated a train named on Suhaldev of Bahraich. But the RSS started working on Suhaldev since 2000, and before that, Ram Raj Parishad and all started working on Suhaldev around 50s and 60s. So RSS picked up that image because they worked with the grassroots, with the Dalits, and they understood the aspiration of the people that they want dignity of their icon, and then RSS started working with them in that icon. And after 20, 10, 15 years, BJP picked up that. So you can see how the resources are produced by the RSS and then picked up by the BJP and then used by the politics. This is the one example. Another example is you must have heard that non-Jato polarization, non-Jato, non-Chamar polarization. And that polarization, in fact, emerged from the social network of the RSS.
Yeah,
The
I'll
RSS
come to that.
started
I'll come
working
to
with
that
the
question. I've read your book. I'll come to that question. So, what you're trying to say is the power of RSS comes from the fact that they have been working on the ground for a number of years, even decades. It's not just in 1 or 2 years things that come up. So, it's a collective result of all this, which they've been able to kind of transfer to the BJP and win an election. We'll come to that. But as you correctly said, there is a certain fixed notion about BJP in everybody's mind. In the past, we have known BJP as largely as a urban party or a Baniya party or a traders party and a party of upper caste. How does this narrative has changed over the years? How the RSS has managed to co-opt backwards, most backward communities, and even Dalits in some places. How have they done this?
RSS through their work in the grassroots produced so many pracharaks of these communities, OBCs and the marginals community, and also some leaders from those communities get picture. Those leaders started working with the BJP. And the RSS sometimes donates their cadres, its cadre to the BJP. They give cadres to the BJP. And then they started working in the BJP. So slowly, BJP profile has changed. So now BJP is not Brahmin Baniya party in that way, and they have evolved their network in various communities, and they entered in various communities through RSS. That's the relation between RSS and BJP. But as you know, the politics of democracy has its own logic. So they multiply in these effects in their own way. So they can pick up a model from RSS work, but multiply in a very big way in the politics of democracy. Because BJP is the biggest large mass party now. So they transform those cadres in mobilizing masses. So one thing is this. The second thing is the RSS. Why I call RSS? I call RSS new RSS because for RSS usually we think that RSS communalism, RSS Hindu Muslim, RSS Brahmin party, Chitpavan Brahmin party. It's true in 1930, 40, 50, 60. They used to bring their pracharaks from Maharashtra because there are no pracharak work in the region. But now, due to their social projects with these communities, their engagement with these communities, they produce a large chunk of pracharaks and the activists from these communities. And that network helped this BJP to expand its politics among various OBCs, Dalit caste. I'm not saying this is only because of the RSS, but RSS made a route, always makes a route, and through those routes, BJP travel in a big way, in very speed, fastest way they work in that route. Like you must have seen the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. It was carved by the BJP, RSS and BHP. But BJP took lot of benefits from that, and multiplies its effect in a big way. Similarly, RSS work among marginals, Dalits, and OBCs, non-Brahmin communities. The BJP even took up these things, multiply its impact and effect, and took it as a larger plan. And we see only larger plan, but we don't see from where these plans come, from where this entire route comes.
Okay. So when you say, it's a new RSS, that's interesting. You call it as a new RSS, and it's not the old RSS which we have known in the past. There, going further, you are referred to, I'll quote here, you are referred to something called invented tradition of Indian society. And you have said that this prepares the, within quotes, socio-cultural context, unquote, for strengthening the BJP. Can you give an example of what it is, how they have invented various traditions, and how they are trying to build a new, society?
See, actually, what RSS does, slowly they enter in the fabric of society and go deeper. And to go there, they change the social bhav of our society. Bhav means the feeling, which is the basis of entire social formations, which is more deeper than the phenomena which we see in visible form. Inventing traditions, because RSS invents the meaning of Hinduism, and they say they always extend it. They keep extending. There is no basics, rigid basic definition of Hinduism for them. So they define the way Arya Samaj defined in its own time, and they always extend its boundary. Like they say, Dalit community, let's say Dalit are a Hindu community. They give it new meaning. They say your icon, we are linked with the great tradition of Indian society. So you are the central of entire Hindu discourse. So you should come and join and work with us. So in that way they invent and in this invention, what they do, they collect the micro deities of the marginal communities, and they bring them together with the greater icons of the Hindu communities, like Ram and Sabri both, Ram and Hanuman both, Ram and Agariya Devi both, Ram and Mari Mai both, Ram and Birsa Munda both. Like in Bengal, you see on the one hand, Jai Shri Ram, on the other hand, Matwa Haridas Thakur, worship of Haridas Thakur. Both are going together. So that's
what they do is they connect the identities. They have a larger RAM as a metadata. Within that, they connect these minor identities.
So through these roots, they reinterpret. That's why I'm saying they invent the tradition, because they invent the history of Ramayanic histories, and they interpret it in its own way, and they bring all these small.
So do they also document all this? Because most of these histories must be oral histories. How do they do that? They have. Is there any literature available in your studies? Have you actually tried to find out is the truth in what they are saying? Is any studies done on that?
See, these are mostly oral histories. We don't have a book on those histories, but they are very popular among people. If you go and talk to the people in the villages, you can easily get those histories. So they get those history through their own work with the grassroots, and we get those histories from our research.
Yeah, so I want you to explain a certain contradiction. Like, for instance, let's take the example of the Ekalavya. He was not given a training by his, archery. He was not given a training, and then he goes and offers his thumb as a kind of Guru Dakshina. Is there a different interpretation which RSS give to this?
Yes, RSS in this way, as I said in the book also, they synthesize the opposites. They bring all the opposites together and they retell it in their own way. That process, sometimes they do selective forgetting, like selective forgetting of the decent. Like whenever they tell, when they face this Ekalavya story, they will tell it Eklavya is Mahapurush. Eklavya is Hindu Mahapurush, Mahapurush of Hindu community. We all worship him, and he is our deity, he is our God. So they don't focus on these contesting identities. They bring those contests. Similarly, they
But isn't
retell
that
about
in the story, in the popular story, Eklavya is seen as someone who has been wronged. He has not been given his due, and he was not taught by his the teacher which he wanted, Dronacharya. So he went on his own and learned.
When you are going to deal with the discontent at the level of memory, there are four ways. If you tell it more powerfully, if you make that icon important, make the statue, tell it many times in your own way, then the minor narrative will be subside. So when RSS tells this narrative, they tell in a bigger way, and they through perversions, through linking with the other narratives. So it's very interesting way. So very interesting way, and those who are very mature pracharaks, they handle this context in
So
their own
when
way.
you say it's mature pracharak, here is a question: how do the RSS cadres themselves absorb these narratives? Because you see, they have to imbibe them before they start telling others. How do they buy this?
They are missionaries, no, in that way. Missionary means their goal is important. Their own feelings are more not much. And when they see this, they take these narratives. First of all, they interiorize those narratives in their own framework, and they put it in their own language. And their language is very broadened, Samras kind of Mahapurush, the bigger kind of language. And that long language always delete its contents, always selectively forget those kind of verses which can create opposition against their narrative. And they tell it very competently, like a Pravachan Karta tells. If you remember the Pravachans of the sadhus, they don't highlight the contradictions. They just hide the contradiction by their narrative. So, and if they feel, sometimes they feel
So it's a
the
very positive
uncomfortable
marketing
question,
in one way. If I
uncomfortable
have to
question.
understand this, it's a very
Uh,
positive marketing.
Yes, you can say. Sometimes they feel they face uncomfortable questions. They accept, yes, Hinduism mein, there are some mistakes, and we want to come out from those mistakes, and we want to take our community, our religion much forward. So they accept that mistakes of the Hindu history of the Hinduism of some time, and they propose themselves as a
And do they accept atrocities also?
social reform agency.
Atrocities also, do they accept atrocity? They cast suppression. If these things are brought out in the discussion, do they accept all that?
No, I think that they don't support all these things. They criticize those things. Whatever happened in the cases of atrocities, they don't accept their support. They criticize those things. But because they are not in power, they are not directly influencing politics. They are not directly involved in the politics. So
Right.
the responsibility does not come on them, but it goes on the BJP. And that time they become silent. Either they become silent, or they say no, it should not be happen. It should not
Yeah.
happen.
Okay. So
So,
they have become, yeah, okay.
like
So, you're saying a very another interesting thing which you have brought out, and you have, traced back this and said that, India traditionally has had political leaders also doubling up as social reformers. And we have seen that you have brought out the Gandhi, and there are other leaders who have been pure social reformers. In some ways, of course, they also propagated politics. Leaders like Modi are also, projecting themselves in that direction. That it's not just politics; also there is a certain reform they're trying to bring in politics. Uh, Now, it's very well for electoral politics, possibly, but how does it work on the ground? Maybe a local leader would go and sit with the Dalit, an upper caste Brahmin or some other upper caste may go and have a meal with a Dalit for photo op and other reasons. But on a day-to-day basis, how does this equation work? I mean, the fracture is so intense, the disparities and the differences are so large. How does it get papered over?
You are very right. Actually, it's very difficult to translate this idea at the grassroots for BJP also, and really, it's a big contradiction in society. But Modi at least proposed this idea within the party, and he's focusing on that. He understands that democracy, politics of power, is losing its appeal. It should go with the package, and in that package there should be a social reconstruction projects works with the public on the social issues. So he proposed that, and he said his MPs that kindly take some of the your fund and do some social work in your areas, and involve with the social projects. So he wants to divert this power ambition which is growing within the party among their cadres towards social reconstruction. But he knows that it's very difficult. And but Sangh, those who came from the training of the Sangh, in the BJP, they are well trained in doing that because they do already these things in Sangh. So they are competently doing, but most of the people, like some of many leaders, joined from the Congress to the BJP. They are coming from that Congress culture. They are still maintaining that culture. Someone came from the Samajwadi Party, someone from the BSP. They have their own traditions, and they are, and even the BJP itself, those who are coming from ABVP directly, those who are coming from the mass organizations, and they are not trained in that. So for them, it's a difficult proposition which Modi is proposing, and Modi knows that it's a very difficult process. But creating idea is also a big thing. We're creating idea, whether it is not going to be implemented. The Indian society is the full of contradictions, and everywhere there is a contradiction of whatever you say. There is a contradiction of against that thing.
Right.
So
There's
there are
a
contradictions.
counterpoint. No, but it's interesting. But here, how does, as a leader, a social, when you say something to the society, and you are projecting yourself as some kind of a social reformer, you have to be. You need. I mean, what it has shown, you need not be politically correct, because when you propose something as Hindu first, and when you talk of, subtly a certain polarization, not so subtle also, a polarization, how does that contradiction sit in here?
See, actually, that's a journey within the BJP and the even RSS. RSS has a very difficult terrain to handle the question of the Muslims, and they have started that. They are redefining Muslims to include in the orbit of the Hindu. They are saying that 5 saal, 4 5 generations, you were Hindus and you were converted in the Muslims. So we don't have any problem. You do your own worship, you do your own puja and all, masjid and everything, but you are part of our orbit. They are redefining it. Recently, you must have heard that Mohan Bhagwat, the book is going to be translated in the Urdu. So they want to communicate with the Muslims. Earlier, they had not that kind of attitude. It's going. But it's a beginning. They will have to go much beyond, and much it's a big travel for them, and they understand. And when this thing will happen in the RSS, then it will impact the BJP. BJP is still doing the same is electoral democratic politics, democratic electoral politics, and their polarization sometimes play. But they have given the new meaning of the polarization. The earlier polarization the secular parties want to polarize Muslims in their favor, and BJP wanted to polarize Hindu in their favor. Now what they did, they made a very bigger alliance of the Hindu politics, and they made Muslim voters irrelevant in the politics of democracy. Like in Uttar Pradesh, they didn't got much vote of the Muslims. But Hindus, because of the Hindu support, they got this victory. Similarly, they are, I think, going to be involved. But I think slowly, they will change these strategies because first of all, they will establish themselves that Hindu is itself a bigger community. We don't need polarization for getting winning election.
Yeah.
Although polarized, because what they have done, they have created a Hindutva common sense, and that does not need anything to polarize community. Community is itself polarized. Just
Yeah.
you tell one proverb, they will come and vote to you. So
Right.
Hindutva consciousness, which I am saying,
Yes, you are
Hindutva
saying that
common
last
sense.
40 years this has settled in the minds. That's what you have said. But that's very interesting what you have said that in last 40 years this has come. While talking about polarization, the another interesting thing you have said that RSS cadres do not prefer violence. That they don't like a kind of a communal strife or other thing, which again is very interesting. You are saying instead of that, uh, there may not be well organized communal riots, which you have seen in the past, which is perhaps a very crude way of polarizing. Uh, Instead, there are prolonged conflicts. Isn't that even more dangerous? Prolonged conflict within the society, the churning taking place, where the people, staring at each other for a longer. I mean, isn't this a continuous what you have explained in your book? Isn't that far more dangerous?
See, one thing very difficult to accept by to the left secular centrist scholars that this form of nature of the communal rights changing. Now they don't need any because whenever I talk to RSS cadres in the grassroots, they used to tell whenever the communal right takes place, we become loser because that affects our organization. That damages our goodwill in the community. Forget what they said. As Hindutva common sense, when it become when it is formed, which is being formed, it maybe as I said, there is no need to polarization. It's already polarized, but polarized. There is a role of the RSS and the to not use that polarization for a violent conflict with others. And use that polarization. I think that polarization should be polarization is not
So,
right.
how do you see the
That sense of
Delhi
identity should
incident?
be there,
Yeah,
but that identity, I'm not saying should. That identity, if that identity is there, and that identity showed its power in the electoral democracy, that will make Muslim appeasement policy politics irrelevant. And when it will become irrelevant, then maybe the nature of the politics change. What they must have thinking. I don't enter in their heart and mind, but I can assume they must be seeing a neutral, a non. It's a kind of society where that kind of polarization should not exist.
right.
But whatever caste se caste ko kato, so religion se religion ko kato. You can cut the religion through the religion, means the cut the identity through the identity. That may be one of the strategy which on which they are working, but not obviously.
What
It's
happened in
very
Delhi?
unobviously.
What happened during Delhi election? We should see as an exception, an outlier. Uh, you know, I mean, these kind of incidents won't happen.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah.
what happened in Delhi. We shouldn't
See,
be.
in Delhi, I'm not from their organization, so I can't explain from their side. But you must have heard, and whenever the analysis of Delhi rights, you're talking about Delhi right,
Yes, yes.
Delhi right, which
Right. Yeah.
the name of the RSS couldn't appear many times this time. In the analysis of the that right. Kapil Mishra, name of Kapil Mishra came, some BJP leaders, name of the BJP leader came, but not RSS as used to happen in the case of 70s communal rights or before communal rights. So that is a shift in understanding the communal rights. But it's true that they have made a condition. That condition, religious Hindutva narrative is the main narrative of the Indian politics. If you want to do politics, either Arvind Kejriwal or anyone, they will have to go to the temple. Jai Hanuman karna hoga. You will have to do Jai Hanuman, or the way Mamata Banerjee's cadres are doing in the temples, cleaning the temples,
Yeah.
and that is the boundary they have created of the politics, and that is
Right.
their success in one way. They
Yeah.
have changed the diction of the Indian politics. I'm not saying I'm not giving any value judgment, but they are made a boundary. If you want to do politics, you will have to walk with that domain. In that domain, you will have to respond the questions which they are posing. If you are not responding, you will lose. So that's why I'm saying that opposition politics needs a language to respond the language proposed by the politics in the politics of India.
Right. You also said that they help RSS helps BJP during elections, and it's a kind of a seamless exercise. How do they do that? So like
See, it's a very interesting way RSS works in the election during election for the BJP. The democracy produced a lot of discontent within the party, and it happens with the BJP in the BJP also. So RSS as the head of the family, they go and try to persuade those who are involved within the BJP party. Secondly, they influence, they collect feedbacks for the lectures delivered by the Modi and the BJP leaders, how they are working with the people, and they pass those feedbacks to the BJP party, and they make the electoral the discursive politics of their election deliberations based on their. Secondly, they work on as a booth manager. No, most of the local war rooms were coordinated by the RSS cadres, are being coordinated by the RSS cadres. You can observe during elections. So there they play very important role. Thirdly, the sifting votes of like unorganized votes of the tea shop, tea shops, vote of the pan sellers, vote of the kuchawala, thelawala, no, there's those who are footpath sellers. Those votes they mobilize because of their persuasive power and their patience in pursuing those voters. So we see during elections, they worked hard to this is small.
So what you're
Uh,
trying to say in your book is RSS is not just strategizing, not just working on the ground for a number of years in the field. In a way, they are maybe disintegrating caste and then integrating them to Hindutva. All this they could be doing, but even during elections, they come forward and work. So they also participate in actual operations. It's not just a strategy. They even come out and participate at a booth level. That's what you're saying. So
yes,
this extent. So the additional support to BJP comes from RSS in this form. That's what you're
yes.
trying to explain.
True. The booth team prepare was formed. We have been formed on the advice of the RSS, local RSS chief, because they feel that they have the very good input of the society, and they may have better understanding of the social composition of that booth. So BJP, when they form their booth committee, the Panna committee or this committee or that committee, they used to take their advice, and based on their advice, and they also coordinate the working and functioning of that booth committee. They bring voters. They also help bring voters to the booths. BJP to bring voters to the booth because they are very organized cadres. So one RSS cadre may be more influential than 100 BJP cadre supporters. So they work like a nucleus of the entire mobilization, electoral mobilization process at many places in northern India. We have seen,
Okay. So while you're
and,
studying,
and you know, there is a no party in the opposition who have this kind of organizations, this kind of support.
right? Uh, you know, uh, while you have looked closely at the caste, you have actually even gone and segmented OBCs, and you looked at very closely in your book. But you have not done, you haven't said much. Actually, I haven't seen on minorities per se. And this entire Uttar Pradesh of Ganga, Yamuna, Tehzeeb, and all those things, and how they're coping with this, how they're dealing with minorities. Uh, isn't some more study need to be done on that?
I think there should be some studies on their functioning with the minorities. And there are few studies I know those who are working on their Rashtriya Muslim Manch and all. But still, they have to evolve much activities among the Muslims. And it's the ongoing project at the level of idea also. So maybe in the future, when their functioning will grow and evolve, I think some study will be needed, and people like you or like me or like anyone can do that.
Okay. I want to take you slightly back. If you remember the Ram Janma Bhoomi agitation when it happened, and to counter that, some political parties brought caste mobilization as an antidote. Uh, if you remember, that happened in the 90s, late 80s and mid 90s. Uh, you have said that RSS is using religious identity as a strategy. Uh, but there is a contradiction when RSS tries to empower marginal communities by giving them identities. They are at one level breaking a consensus within, say, larger groups like SC or OBC communities, which is perhaps leading to certain fragmentation and could be intensifying caste differences. How would they resolve this?
See, uh, the same method, the way Kashiram was working on Dalit and margins, RSS is working the same line. Only thing is they have added their Seva cards. Otherwise, identity, dealing with the identity, like uh, making pyramid of the icons and bringing various cards together, forming their bigger alliance and saying, look, you are great and you are part of the village. So your identity is satisfied that you are great, you are great, great kings, great this, that, which was all invented by BSP, icons during BSP movements. And they picked up most of those icons and brought the caste identities together in a pyramid. And on the top of the pyramid is one bracket, one brand, and that is the Hindu identity. So that may be ruptured when some leader emerge from caste, those who do caste mobilization, and rupture this grand identity which they are creating. And but now you see the Mayawati is not able to do much. Akhilesh Yadav is not even able to understand what is happening, and that's why I am critical about the opposition. And I'm saying that they are not able to understand what is happening at the grassroots. And Jameen, they are losing their ground.
Yeah.
They will try to revive the caste
Right.
things in coming election, but that will work sometime, and that may not work sometime because there is a new other identities are being formed. Like Nico identity is another identity, which is popping up many OBCs, many Dalits. Like in last election, you must have heard in UP election, people from Jadov caste, they were saying, we will vote for the BJP because we are Jagrit Jagrit Jadov, conscious Jadov. We are not that kind of Jadov who used to vote to.
Yeah, so they have a sense of awakening now. Okay. So the other thing is, in your conclusion, you have said that, I quote, one has to create a balance in the process of inclusion as well as appropriation. If the balance is disturbed due to this process, the political groupings face friction, fractures, and ruptures in their political body and soul. Unquote. Isn't this a threat facing? Can you elaborate?
Yes, I wanted to tell that whenever this kind of identity is being formed in bigger way, and there are always a space of fracturedness among them, and pulling those fracturedness together, one prepare the whole. whole and fragments. And there is it depends on the mobilizer how he dilute the contradiction between various fractured units and bring them together and form a grand narrative. And that's a very it's a very difficult work which they are doing. It's working with the fire in one way. If you will lose sometime or walking on the roof, not used to walk, you will fail. And that they know that problem because it happened in many tribal communities. In tribal communities, they walk. So sometimes it happens.
One more issue. You see, your study largely relates to Uttar Pradesh. I mean, this particular book which you have brought in. BJP is no longer. I mean, that's why I said in my intro that perhaps it's a laboratory where they experimented and probably they want to replicate it. But it can't be one size fits all. If you come to South, especially a state like Tamil Nadu, where there's been a movement for social justice going on for the last 60, 70 years. Many of these experiments which you're talking of, even quota within quota, and then subclassification of various communities and castes, these things have been happening. There's been discussion. Even in this election, there have been two kinds of reservation which has been provided within the reservation. So the history of Tamil Nadu. It's kind of a different from other histories. When BJP goes to these states, when they move away from Hindi heartland and move further, uh, are they changing their strategies, or are they trying one size fits all kind of a thing? Because the narratives will different every 100 kilometer. How are they coping with that?
I think you may have better, you are in better position to tell about those when they work in another condition, how they work. But what I feel that like it's the case of Bengal, uh, the, the, the parameters and some of the parameters they use there, but they localize methods and localization of the methods, and sometimes they also evolve methods from their own that owns those local societies. So maybe the condition may change their meta plans, and like in Tamil Nadu, they may have adopted another kind of strategy, and democratic politics always compel you to change yourself. So when BJP is doing, they will have to change and they will work with the in other conditions. But some of the things which may work well everywhere, and those things like the Hindutvaness is a bigger narrative, and that may work everywhere in anywhere
So I
because
have one final question. Actually, it's been
yeah,
fascinating. I can go on and
yeah,
on, but I want to stop it here. I have one final question. Finally, what's your advice for the opposition? Because what's happening here, that while on the one hand, RSS BJP is trying to give religious identities to what was earlier perhaps, you know, kind of ethnic secular identity. How do they tackle this? What is your advice to them?
I think I'm not anyone to advise them. They are very big, but as a scholar, I can say, based on my research, that first of all, they need to have every political party. They may have a group like RSS, the party, like the BSP had DS4 once upon BS4 sometime. Sorry, BAMSIP was a similar kind of organization they had. So that kind of organization, support system, one has to evolve with the party.
A
Now, only
grassroots work
democratic,
is
only
important.
electoral democratic politics is not enough to keep people contained with the political groups because the aspirations of people are being changed and the challenges are being posed by a party which have this kind of organization. Second is the language. Diction is very important because they are talking in the right based language, which always giver, I am going to give it. Even that our democracy is turned a gift democracy, everyone like gifts, but it depends how you are giving that gift. Language is very important, and they need to change their language. Thirdly, the BJP the Indian society, BJP has posed a language which has cultural echoes and echoes of the tradition. That's why it affects the memory and the ginger in the mind and heart of the people. And that may be the party in the, I think in Tamil Nadu, they are well versed in doing that kind of politics. I don't know much about that.
Right.
So, but I can see the parties who are working in the region, my experience with them, that they need to evolve a new language to respond BJP or Hindutva politics. So these three things I would like to tell. The entire rupture and a kind of reversal or revision of the epistemology of the language, of the politics, of the position is needed. Secularism, I don't know. Earlier, secularism worked as a electoral capital. I think now it's being not able in the way. They will have to rethink how to bring that discourse within the politics, or bring, or may not bring. They should work in different direction. The way Arvind Kejriwal is working, I think that's compulsion created by the Hindutva politics. So Hindutva politics is a challenge, and you will have to see your face in that aina or that glass, and that's that much advice I can give.
Yeah. Thanks, Professor Badrinaran. It's been a very fascinating talk. You've been able to tell us something about RSS through this book. And rightly, as you have said, that it's actually Garbha Graha of Hindutva politics. And it needs to be understood. And that's what your book is attempting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for raising such a nice questions. And I think you have read the book very cautiously, and I'm really thankful to you.
Thank you, Professor.
Really